quick break from my tappity tap here to talk about elves. I'm in the Viking world at the moment, and I've been to Ireland, and the Vikings have been to Ireland too, and raping and plundering and pillaging they have been. I'm speaking like that, you know, as they have, as it is. You know, that's the way the Irish speak, you know. Some of them have become Irish. In Dublin, you have generations of kids getting born and growing up and becoming Irish, but they're kind of mixed race, you know. So there's a guy called Brian Boru I heard about, and he's Irish, and he's fighting the Normans, he's fighting the Viking types, and the Irish versus the Vikings, that is, to a certain extent. But heaps of people in Brian Boru's Irish army, well, they're mixed race, and they speak both languages and all that sort of thing. So it's sort of, yeah, who's a Viking and who isn't shifts. But I've left Ireland and I've gone to Iceland now. Danes have gone over there, I think. And they've taken slavery with them. They've grabbed some slaves from Ireland and taken them to Iceland. But back to the elves. The elves. Well, that's a very ancient thing in Norse mythology. It's probably elsewhere. I don't know. I don't read The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter. Well, not lately, anyway. Look, the whole story of the elves was grafted onto Christianity there a little bit, because that's how mythology works. And over in Iceland, the myth, the reality and the fact and the truth of the myth is that, there was Adam and Eve, and God came down to the garden to check on them. There's lots of children by now. And God said, bring me the children. I want to see how they're going. You know? I think there's more than Cain and Abel. I think there was a few more as well. Anyway, Adam and Eve brought a random sample bunch of children to show God, we've been busy. And he said, this is not all of them. You're hiding some. And Eve said, no, this is all of them. And God said, who hides from God? You know, God hides from humans, but humans aren't to hide from God. And he turned the missing children into invisible children. He made them invisible, and they went to go and live in the rocks and the hills and the mounds and the bits and pieces in nature. And they became the elves. Okay, so that's a merging of two ancient myths and religions and all that. But I actually quite like myths, and gods, and the God and religion and all that sort of stuff. Really important stuff. I was chatting the other day. You know, the evils of humanism, you know, where it's all about us, you know, the chosen ones. The evils of putting ourselves first and only. I was talking about it the other day, and it seems to have, you know, I listen to people, you know, and it seems to have infiltrated via osmosis into the very way we think, and our laws especially. So, for example, there's such a thing as human rights, but there isn't such a thing as river rights or rock rights, you know, or mouse rights. there's no God in the mouse. Anyway, what happens there is, look, it sounds really logical and rational and all that sort of thing to deny that there's possibly a God in this mouse. That sounds rational, but you pay a price, it would seem. Because if you go down that road of rationalism, you end up a Nazi. No, the Nazis got into myths as well. You end up a commie, you know, and you're very logical, and everyone gets killed, and you only live half a life anyway because you're missing a hell of a lot of what it means to be a human and not a monkey. You know, monkeys don't have myths, as far as I know. Pretty sure mice don't. Whales, I don't know about whales. They're supposed to be pretty smart, but they don't seem very smart to me. But the thing is, you lose something if you just want to roll your eyes at myths and things like that, because, take a river. If it's got no rights, you know, if all of nature is here just to serve us, according to some Israeli Bible or something, or according to rational humanism, which all sounds good. Oh, I'm into humanity, you know, I'm into humanness. I'm a humanist. It all sounds really good, but you need someone to talk for the trees. There's an argument that we have detached ourselves from that in our almost blind, headlong ambition to put ourselves first. So, although you get these myths though that seem to have, you know, tell us to have more respect for a river, for example, or a little hillock, or the god of the mouse. And you know, is that stupid? Well, maybe. But the good thing about, you know, why it's good not to let all that stuff go, the myths and everything, isn't that what separates us from bonobos anyway? Is that how you say it? Bonobos? I don't even know how to say that word. I read certain words, but I never hear them. Chimpanzees, I've heard that one. Is this what separates, you know, like if you're going to say, oh, I'm just a rationalist, you know, and I put myself first, I'm a humanist, or I'm God-fearing, I put myself first, because God made the earth, God just to serve the humans. Humans first, everything else exists just to serve us, all that stuff. I'm an enlightenment man, and what I mean by that is I put myself first, and that all makes a lot of sense to me because I'm just a monkey. Because you know, but is there something to be said for having a different type of enlightenment? I'm not coming down heavily on one side or the other, but I'm just saying right now, there's a river out there in Queensland at the moment, and they want to put a freeway through that thing. That river's got no rights. So you put the freeway through that thing, and you don't even think about the river, as long as the river's not owned by anyone, just boom, yeah? Redirect the river. But what if you're a Greek? My godmother brought up, no, not my godmother, my other auntie, Helen. She brought up, could have been either, they both like their Greek mythology. She brought up the business of Daphne, whose father was in the river, you know, like a river god of some sort. Now, you might say, it's stupid, you know, but I've got my wife's uncle, who's my uncle now, because that's the way I do families. He says, you know, when the Greeks went to Christianity, we had a better religion before that. What did he mean by that? Well, in the Greek religion, there were, the river was more than a river. It had a god in it. The sea had Poseidon in it. The ocean. So the ocean, you wouldn't want to go polluting the ocean because you've got to have respect for Poseidon, which sounds dumb, but smart too. And the river, we're going to put a freeway through that river. Oh, yeah, but Daphne's dad lives in that. And is the way you'd go, with that line of thinking, if you weren't so, clever and classless and free as we are now, you would hesitate and you'd say, no, you know what, we'll put a bridge over the river. We won't redirect it or concrete it up or anything. We'll put a bridge over it, but we'll keep it all nice underneath. Because we don't want to upset Daphne's dad. Same thing goes, I suppose, with the elves. I just remembered this episode's supposed to be about elves. With the elves, that story about Adam and Eve and the disappearing children who became elves, who lived in the mounds and the hillocks and the trees and the rocks. They're the elves, and they could become visible to you if they want to, but usually they don't want to. You could roll your eyes and say that's stupid, but is it? That's the sort of argument. And you sort of think to yourself, oh, all right. Now I heard, and of course, I think by then the people of Iceland were Christian, but they had grafted Christianity onto their heathen ways. And all right, now I heard that in 2013, and I think I actually remember this, the government of Iceland, or whatever you want to call it, the council, wanted to bulldoze their way through some hill or something and put a highway through there, put a road through there. And a whole lot of people stood up and said, and objected. There were environmentalists who stood up and objected for a start because there were some environmental issues with it, but that could be settled in court. But there was another group that stood up next to the environmentalists and argued for elf rights. And they said, you can't put a road through there. The elves live in that hill. We've known this for 1,000 years. There's elves in that hill. Your average rationalist who's so clever and classless and free, as John Lennon says, say, that's stupid, bring the bulldozers in, there's a couple of bloody, pagans chaining themselves to trees here. Go right through them. And that's rational. That's rational because they're stupid. But nah. Because, thinking through the thing, through the myth, and coming out the other side, you sort of say to yourself, oh, it's just a way of having respect for things beyond oneself, is it not? It can be read that way. And that's my story about the elves. Now, as it turns out, I talked about something else for almost the entire episode, but you get what I'm saying. And I know, I don't know that much about Indigenous Australians, but they're all, they're just part of the environment. They're not, they're not like Abraham who says, I am a god, and, all you lions and tigers and cows and stuff bow down and get your heads chopped off and I'm going to eat you. And all that sort of stuff because you're here to serve me. This is, and humanism goes down that path too. So people, you hear them say, oh, I'm a humanist. You sort of say, is that great? Is that good? Is there a downside to that? And there's a downside to that, I think. And the downside is you don't want to go around killing elves. You've got to have respect for the elves. if there are any elves here in Queensland, but there might be other things. I don't know enough about Indigenous culture, but rocks and all that sort of stuff, they've got their own spirits. There's spirits in the rocks. Ah, see, that's what the Greeks had. The Daphne's dad, who lived in the river. He was part of the river. He was the river. He lived in the river. The river has its own spirit, and therefore the river has its own rights. Dumb? Maybe not. In Iceland, they say there's elves in the rocks and the trees and the hills. Well, what they're saying is that maybe this is a way of saying that rocks and trees and hills have got their own spirit or their rights. It's good to respect them. Not because someone owns them and you're going to get sued if you put a highway through that hill, but because the hill itself might sue you. That's a brain twister for me, because I'm conditioned in the liberal arts in which I am a god. How can a hill have rights? That's stupid. And how can a river have rights, And how can there be a God in my mouth?